What's up, everybody? Yeah, welcome to the Mike Dolce Show. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I have to apologize. It wasn't intentional, but it was intentional. Actually, I'm lying. It was intentional. I intentionally pissed you off. I intentionally ran the risk of hurting your feelings. I intentionally said something that was so real and so honest. We've received hundreds of emails. We've received more emails on this one topic than on anything else I've ever said. So I needed to apologize and say, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I mean, I'm sorry, not sorry, right? Now, what did I say that was so horrible? Well, I mean, it wasn't horrible at all. And if honesty makes you mad, I don't know that that's my fault. I think it's maybe it's our fault. It's our fault. It is our fault as a society that we haven't drawn clear expectations and we haven't supported each other well enough, lovingly enough, openly enough, honestly enough that we can have these conversations without feeling some kind of way. So in last week's podcast, Obesity Worldwide, I discussed the startling rate of obesity in the United States, actually worldwide. And I know we have an international audience, and I thank you all for being here. And if you would, members of the international audience, please just send an email to Coach Mike at thedolcediet.com. I will get this. Gabby's like, Mike, you got to stop. I'm sorry, Gabby. I got to apologize to Gabby. Gabby has been like, Mike, you have to stop telling the amazing audience to email me because I can't get my work done. I'm so sorry. I didn't think about it. There's only 25 hours in Gabby's day. And unfortunately, our emails have set her back. I laugh now because I take full response. It's not Gabby's fault. It is my fault. So I'm so sorry. She's always been so good. She is so good at getting all this information to me and organized and just so darn efficient. My fault. So from now on, my friends, please send all Mike Dolce Show related emails to Coach Mike at thedolcediet.com. We have actually planned 2 hours a week in my own schedule to read all of the emails and answer as many of the emails as need to be answered, because not everyone, and thank you guys again for all your comments and all your suggestions and all your little shout outs and your brags of your results and your criticism. I love the criticism. I really appreciate the critiques here. And I think this episode hopefully highlights that I'm responding to the critiques and the questions and the why would you say what you said the way you said it? Not that I disagree, but I disagree with the way you said what you said. Although I agree with what you said, I disagree with how you said it. And I wanted to have that conversation. So all of my international audience, all my international friends, just send an email of where you're from to Coach Mike at thedolcediet.com. Say wherever you're from outside of the United States. U.S., don't worry. I'm going to do a little shout out cool thing for you, but the U.S. audience by far is the biggest. So I can't handle tens of thousands of U.S.-based emails of Ogallala, Nebraska, and Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and wherever else you guys may be. International, please send. Now, I digress. So we got these emails. And Gabby was like, "Hey, what did you say? What did you do?" I haven't listened to the episode yet. I think because frankly she's sick of hearing my voice. And I get it's like Brandy. I was like, "Oh, did you hear Did you hear the podcast today?" And she's like, "No, no, like the same stuff you say at dinner when we're in the car driving. It's the same. It's the same stuff, and it pretty much is. So when I'm here talking to you, my friends, just know this is the way I talk to all the people I care about in my life, all the people I love in my life. It's the same exact conversation. But I had said, well, I started with the facts that adult obesity has doubled. It has doubled worldwide in recent history, but more alarming is childhood or adolescent obesity has quadrupled in the same period of time. So the adults have gotten twice as obese. During that same period of time, the children have gotten 4 times as obese. Now, what does this mean? Well, let me just briefly, as an aside, I teach a 14-hour nutrition certification course that is endorsed by the National Academy of Sports Medicine and the National Strength and Conditioning Association, the NASM and the NSCA. I teach a 14-hour nutrition certification course. And during those 14 hours, the amount of times the data directly associates obesity with nearly every chronic illness and disease and all-cause mortality is more so than any other correlated factor. Well, let me rephrase that in slightly simpler terms. Obesity is directly associated with nearly every major chronic condition, chronic illness, and non-accident related mortality event. Obesity. So if we know, and nobody argues that, There's no way you cannot argue that. The data are so clear. You cannot get mad at me for stating that out loud. In fact, the data are so clear, I can get mad at you for not accepting that fact. You want to talk about a science denier. And as an aside, this is how I got banned. Did you know that? I was banned on every major social media platform. And what's crazy is it is for statements I had said on one platform. Now, this is not a conspiracy theory. I can literally show you my dashboards. I had made a statement, and I won't name the platforms because I still have PTSD from the entire 2-year experience, almost 3-year experience. I had made statements on one of the platforms that said, wear your mask, social distance, but if you do not go to your doctor and discuss a medically acceptable BMI, you are a science denier. And I cited the CDC for showing the clear and direct correlation between high BMI individuals, specifically those suffering with obesity, who were uniquely susceptible to respiratory issues and vaccine failure rates. Did you know that? Did you know that high BMI individuals, those suffering from obesity, have a dramatically lower positive response to vaccines? I bet you didn't know that because it's not reported anywhere you watch your news. But if you actually read the data, you know that that's 100% true. And I bet you don't know that all of the big drug trials almost exclusively excluded high BMI and obese individuals because they knew those individuals would drag down the success rate. I have to assume. Because if I was trying to, not fudge the numbers, if I was trying to conduct a study with the most favorable outcomes for a vaccine, and if I had the ability to exclude high BMI or obese individuals, oh, I would. Because we know the data shows that this subset of the population, which is now the majority of the population, responds very poorly to vaccines. And there are some hypotheses around this, which really center on inflammation, which I think makes great sense, as inflammation is directly correlated with nearly every chronic condition and illness and all-cause mortality. It's weird how all these associations just make so much sense, and they are very clearly contained within the data. So I said this on one of my social media platforms, which was growing, consistently growing. We were just in a great stride. The day I said that post disappeared. I received a warning. I was not allowed to post it again, or I would risk losing my entire account. And that same weekend, every single one of my social media accounts were throttled down. Now, they're not under the same ownership. Meta doesn't own Google, which owns YouTube. Google, which owns YouTube, well, they didn't own Twitter, which it was Twitter at the time prior to Elon Musk coming in. So my Facebook, my Instagram, my YouTube, and my TikTok channel, all within 72 hours of each other, were throttled down. Isn't this crazy? What is the odds of this? The irony, the coincidence? And instead of growing hundreds to thousands of new subscribers, followers per week, we started losing the same amount. Except for YouTube, which YouTube, we didn't lose any subscribers, but our videos went from getting thousands to 10,000 or so views per post to a couple hundred. If we broke 1,000 on YouTube after that event, it was a party. Now, our content didn't change, and I didn't often talk about the world events. I talked very similar to the way I still talk today. And I'm almost a little nervous talking about this here, but I think we can now. And I'm not saying which platform did it because I'm still a little scared of them, to be honest with you. So this is how we communicate. I'm not trying to be ostracized from the public square. I want to be able to hang out with you and see you and participate with you and share and engage with each other. So back in the year 2020, I think it was June or July of 2020 is when I made the post. I was throttled down. I believe they call it throttled, shadow ban, shadow censor. There's so many different terms. But now here we are, a few years later, where everyone forgets. They try to forget. They pretend to forget what the world went through, what we were put through, what was done to us. And now, nothing has been cured, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing has been cured. There's no difference. Nothing has been cured. There's no changes. There's no changes. But now we don't have to social distance. We don't have to wear masks. We don't have to quarantine. We don't have to shelter in place. We don't have to shut down our businesses. We're allowed to go for walks with our families. It makes you wonder, who's in charge? Unfortunately, the same people in charge of crafting that narrative and enforcing the laws and procedures around it are the exact same, well, I should say entities more so than people. They're the exact same entities that many of our family and friends, maybe even you, believe is going to save you from heart disease or diabetes or cancer or stroke or depression or obesity or any number of issues that are afflicting our society. So you believe the same people, the same entities that did that to us in 2020 are now somehow so caring and so benevolent that they will sweep in and save you with a new public policy, a new agenda, a new entitlement, a new pill, a new shot. Really? Really? So if we can then agree that, maybe our best interests are not aligned with, quote, their best interests, and maybe they are just inept and not nefarious. Who knows? Regardless of the reason, well, we are alone. We are alone. Now, I've said this before. Each one of us, you right now listening, you are completely alone, trapped inside that gelatinous body of yours. Trillions of cells stuck together to form that little shape of yours. Running on the treadmill, sitting in the car, stuck behind a desk, walking on the trail, or wherever else you might be. At the end of the day, we are all uniquely alone, trapped inside of these vessels of ours. It reminds me of a story that Warren Buffett famously tells, and I'll tell it in my own way. You'll get the gist of it. Warren Buffett's sitting in front of a classroom of school children, not even high schoolers, younger children, young children. And the teacher said, "Mr. Buffett, can you explain to the class in a manner that they would understand how you view investing?" And he said, "Sure, I can do that." Imagine, children, that you can drive any car you want. You can have the car of your dreams. If right now I told you you can pick any car and I could snap my fingers and make it yours, which car would you choose? And all the kids' faces lit up. And he said, "But wait, before you make your decision, just know the car you choose today is the only car you will drive for the rest of your life. Does that change your decision?" Well, that's how Mr. Buffett chooses which companies he will invest in. He's a buy and hold investor and one of the richest humans ever to walk the face of this planet as a result of that shrewd philosophy. This I believe to be evergreen. I'm an observer. I'm an observer of elites. I've spent my career working with elites, elite athletes primarily. And because of my success working with elite athletes, I gained the favor of elite operators, leaders of industry, and even rulers of nations. It's pretty crazy. But I'm only good at what I do because I observe and I analyze and I apply the scientific method in a very real way to all that I do, which I believe is why I've been so successful professionally, because everything we do is data driven. We look for confounding principles, core principles, what I call evergreen principles. And once we have tested and proven these evergreen principles, well, they become a part of our protocol. And very rarely, if never at all, do they ever leave, because there's no cause, because they work. So when I say to you right now, you didn't have a choice in choosing your car. You were literally born in it. You were born in it. This is the car you were given. Some people got Ferraris and Land Rovers and Lambos and Porsches and Mercedes and Cadillacs. You know, others got F-150s, SUVs. You know, some got VW Beetles. Some got Dodge Darts. But have you ever seen a Dodge Dart that was pristinely cared for, lovingly maintained, pull up next to a Porsche that was abused, never washed, never cleaned, never had an oil change, subpar fuel, no new spark plugs, worn out tires, rusty side panels? So it's not the car you are born in per se, it's the way that you care for that vehicle, that vessel, that body of yours. Now, again, back to the data. If we know that the data clearly supports high BMI individuals and those suffering with obesity have an exponential risk of chronic health conditions leading to all-cause mortality, would we not want to avoid that? And if only we had the autonomy of self, that we could simply choose what, when, and how much we would eat and drink on any given day. If only it was up to us to eat well or eat poorly. If only we were empowered to move our body in an athletic manner relative to our current abilities consistently. If only we could simply say no to the synthetic toxins, to the poisons, to the drugs, to the alcohol. Could you imagine if we lived in a world where each individual human being was actually in charge of the things that they ate, the things that they drank, and the things that they did not eat or drink? Well, that, my friends, is called being an adult. Wow. So adults are actually empowered to make their own decisions and determine the overall outcome of their life. But the children do not yet have that autonomy. The children are subject to the command of their parents. The children will eat and drink what the parent provides for them, whether it be poison or health affirming foods. And this is where I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry when I speak up on behalf of the children. Now, you might be a grown ass adult and you're going to choose your life and you're going to YOLO if you want to, and you're going to poison yourself with synthetic toxic chemicals. And that is your right. And you will suffer and you will capitulate and you will make excuses and you will think, hey, it's not so bad because I'm not as bad as this other person I know. I'm not as bad as someone else in my family. I'm not as bad off as someone else in my peer group. I'm not nearly as bad as someone I went to school with. Therefore, I'm not doing bad. And if that is what you aspire to, hey, I'd like to see more for you, but I can't twist your arm. But when it comes to the children who don't yet have the ability to speak up for themselves, I can speak a little louder and I can be a little bit more firm and I can look you directly in the eye and put my finger in your chest and say, what the fuck are you doing? How can you justify feeding this young, tiny child the same synthetic toxic chemicals that you, as a fully grown adult, cannot consume without immediately feeling sick? Explain that to me. How can you pollute this child's body with the same substances you refuse or fight to not consume because those substances make you feel bad and make your body look bad? How do you square that? Explain that to me. You know, and when I say it like that, I know all of you are considering that point. How can society stuff these synthetic toxic chemicals into the mouths of tiny children? 20-pound, 60-pound, 100-pound children. Their tiny little bodies still forming. Their paradigm of the world still being shaped. How can we as a society knowingly and intentionally harm them? Now, I understand you gotta let them live a little, Dolce. Kids gotta eat candy, Dolce. Do they? Real? Do they? One candy bar is not gonna kill them, Dolce. What about a drag of a cigarette? Is that gonna kill him? What's the difference? That's not socially acceptable, Dolce. There's no propaganda machine telling us it's okay to give children cigarettes, Dolce. The billions of dollars being spent on marketing are telling us it's okay to fill our children with synthetic toxins wrapped around processed sugar pops. So because the TV tells us it's okay, Dolce, my whole peer group feels like it's okay, Dolce, and we regurgitate this false narrative at our children's expense, Dolce. You just don't understand. No, I think I understand pretty fucking well. Now I hope you understand. Too much? Is that too much? Too much for you? Too much realism? Too much honesty? What topic change? What about my new beard? What about my new beard? Have you seen the beard? What do you mean? What am I talking about? Jump over to Instagram. You will see. And if you don't follow us on Instagram, make sure that you do. If you're not a part of my broadcast network, definitely be a part of that. Totally free on Instagram. Also, if you're not a member of our free email list, growing rapidly, 40 some odd thousand amazing members inside our email list at this very moment, getting free recipes, free workouts, free health habits, free tips, lots of cool, fun stuff. You can click the link tree. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, below this video, just click the link below this video. Click the link tree below this video. So much cool stuff down there. We got some cool deals. We got the email list is where it's at. So much free stuff we fill you guys up with. So I'm sorry again. I'm sorry, I guess, but I'm not. Like, you can tell that. Like, I'm sorry your feelings are some kind of way, but I'm not sorry. So for all of you, I don't even know how many kids. There were hundreds, which is awesome. And I appreciate you guys. Remember, Coach Mike at thedolcediet.com for anything about this podcast, any future podcasts. Also, any guest. If you want to be a guest on the Mike Dolce Show podcast, hey, send a message, Coach Mike. We have a pretty cool audience. There's some very, very, very cool people. I've had some very cool people, names that you would know who've reached out that are a fan of the show. I appreciate that. And other names that you might not know, but you absolutely should know. So again, Coach Mike at thedolcediet.com. I will read that. Give me, half a week to get back in touch, depending on what day it falls on. Twice a week, I'll be going through the emails, 2 hours a week. Also, I'm going to tease something right now. In a few weeks, I'm going to tell you something that is going to change. It's going to change. It's going to change your body. It's going to change your life. It's going to change your ability to lose fat. It's something I've been working on for a long time now. And it's almost here. We will talk more about it. I will tell you more about it. The email list will always learn about it first, by the way. That is the respect we give to the email list for taking that next step and kind of becoming a member. But you guys will hear about it also. And then pretty soon the whole world will hear about it. And then it will change the world. And you will have heard it here first. So that's as much as I can tease it right now. I wish I could say more. It's like the little kid with a gift 2 days before Christmas. He just wants to tell everybody about wants to give the gift, but it's not quite ready yet. So I can't do it yet, but it's coming soon and you will hear about it and it will be awesome. And it will be much better. I'm actually underplaying how cool this is going to be. I'm underplaying it right now on purpose. You'll see what I mean when it is time. But I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being here as always. I got nothing else, but this topic, you can tell, to close, this topic is so important to me. It really is. And I share this with love. Everyone out there, I love you. I love your family. And I want you to be blessed. I want you to be healthy. I want you to all live long and enjoy each other's company, devoid of all of the terrible trauma. I was exposed to so much trauma as a child due to my father's own lifestyle related illnesses. I have most of my memories of my father are him with tubes hanging out of his body in a fucking hospital bed or in a wheelchair, not being able to speak properly and say my name, right? All lifestyle related, all avoidable, completely avoidable. Very much the same. I have members in my family who have parts of their body chopped off due to diabetes, right? So I understand this at a very real level. I can still be that 8-year-old boy coming home to my father lying in his own vomit after having a massive stroke, completely lifestyle related, 100%. And going through and just watching my family not accept the landmines inside our genetic code, and one by one they blindly sip their Slurpees and step on these landmines, and they eat their pork roll, egg and cheese fried sandwiches with their chili cheese fries, and they blow up their hearts. I've watched it firsthand, so I understand from a very real personal perspective, but also as a health and fitness professional working in the industry for 31 years. 31 years I've been working at this. So you can imagine the amount of humans I have walked the journey with and the stories. And I don't want you to become one of those. And I do not want your children to become one of those. Your children have to change the trend. It's up to you. It's up to us. It's up to our community. We must change the trend. Adult obesity has doubled. Adolescent obesity has quadrupled in the same amount of time. We have to reverse that. And we can only do it together. And we can only do it if we're speaking honestly and openly and lovingly. And that's what we're here for. So I appreciate you. And remember, don't count calories, make calories count. Boom!